Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the Musical Connections podcast. It's a continuation of our series, 15 Years on the Lawnya. We're covering the Lawnya Vawnya 15 Festival, which takes place June 4th to the 7th, or by the time this airs would have already concluded. We're talking with the people that are involved in the festival, from an artist standpoint, from a delegate standpoint, and from an industry standpoint. Joining me right now, she is a poet, she's a musician who plays with Penny in the Pits. You may have heard Penelope Stevens already. Joining me right now is one of her bandmates, and she's a poet in her own right, Colleen Collins, or she goes by Coco. How are you?
Yeah, good. Colleen Coco Collins, I'm great. How are you doing, Zach?
I am lovely, and thank you so much for stopping by to St. John's.
The pleasure is mine.
This is not your first time, because we were talking off the air here. You were at the very first Lawnya Vawnya, I believe in 2010 or 2011.
Yeah, I think I was. I slip around in time a bit, but my friends Ariel and Matthias from the Burning Hell were part of organizing that, I think.
Yes, why?
Yeah, and they're, fabulous, generous people, and they invited my previous band to play, and it was a beautiful pleasure. I do remember being billeted, so staying with people, and in the morning, music floating up from the floors below, which is always my experience of St. John's. There's,
Yeah, that's wonderful. Everywhere. And the Burning Hell are a pretty legendary band here. Another one of the members that played in there, Jake Nickel, who's gone on to become a very successful singer-songwriter and producer, who's produced records for himself, Kelly McMichael, John Moran. He also produced Ruben Rake's new album, Good Time After Bad. So pretty well known here, and the Burning Hell are definitely, probably one of the more influential and kind of, impactful bands to come out of this province and really out of the Maritimes in the 2010s and 2020s here.
I concur.
So, of course, this is the first time you are really connecting with each other. So tell me and the listeners as well a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, as I said, I live rurally, littorally, so by the water. And I do work in poetry and music. And I've worked in visual arts as well. I'm playing right now and played this weekend. Are we at the weekend yet? I'm not sure.
Well, it's the weekend when we're recording this, but this will drop later on the month.
Okay. Beautiful. Time slippage.
Right.
So I played with Penny in the Pits last night, our first kind of official show. It was a real thrilling experience. And I'm also playing with Status Non-Status, and I play with Julie Doiron as well. All really generous, stirring musicians. So that's me. Wrote a book recently, I guess around this time last year. And so I did a reading as part of Lawnya Vawnya as well. Which was really cool to have that set up and to be able to experience the written works read of and by other poets. So, and I'm going to a workshop today. There's a beautiful writing workshop happening. So all the riches of Lawnya Vawnya, very grateful.
No, absolutely. Now, of course, this is the Musical Connections podcast, but music is one part of the arts sector in general, not just in Newfoundland and Labrador, but the rest of the Atlantic Canadian provinces. How important are festivals like this for people like yourself who don't just dabble in music, but also dabble in poetry as well?
Oh, well, they create space for beautiful possibilities, I think. So, and always for makers, it's my experience that kind of opens up egresses, sort of pathways and connections. I think that border being fluid increasingly in festivals between different kinds of arts, is rife for kind of sparking, new thoughts, new ideas.
Oh, for sure. So you told me you were at the very first Lawnya Vawnya, and of course Ariel Sharad and Matthias Kalm, also Andrea Vincent, who is the new comms director at Music NL, helped founded the Lawnya Vawnya Festival. Do you have any vivid memories of the first Lawnya Vawnya?
I think one of them was I did mention sort of hearing music on all fronts in a really beautiful way. So I remember there was the musical kind of parade, which happened going from venue to venue.
The music crawl.
The music crawl, that's right. It was just really generous. There was a night of covers of the band I was in at the time, and that was very generous. And yeah, I remember a lot of walking and beautiful conversations unfurling along those walks. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Now,
Yeah.
of course, you play with Penny in the Pits. I've recently just had Penelope Stevens on this podcast to talk about that group and what she does. She's also one of the delegates with the Flourish Festival in New Brunswick. But you're from Nova Scotia, which is a very rich, vast music sector out there. It's like one of the largest provinces. I mean, Halifax is the largest municipality in the Atlantic Canadian provinces. Number 2, this town,
Yeah,
which is
that.
awesome. But of course, you grew out in the Bay of Fundy, which I found really cool. So what was growing up in the Bay of Fundy like?
Well, actually, to gently reframe that, I did grow up in Ontario,
Oh yes, why?
but I went to school at NASCAD, the Arts College in Halifax.
Okay.
And I really fell in love with the geography of the area, and the people and the culture. And so I ended up moving out to this small kind of isolated place in which I live. Isolated in terms of humans, florid and abundant in terms of like animals and flora. So yeah, I've been in Nova Scotia for quite some time. I do a lot of traveling, but yeah, I really love it. I'm a bit of an, I don't know, I guess a bit of an anchoress in terms of like seeing people. Usually I'm rocketed through with touring through areas. But so yeah, my experience is particularly rural out there, but I do, you mentioned Penny and the Flourish Festival. So I've played as part of that. I do move pretty fluidly across the New Brunswick border into Sackville, where I worked at Strutt's Gallery there and have a number of dear friends, and back and forth to Ontario too, where status non-status are, and communities there as well. Yeah, and hopefully in other places across the world.
Yeah, one of the other people they've played with was Julie Dois-Wrong. And where is she based out of? Quebec, I would imagine?
No, she is French. She's Acadienne, and she's in Memramcook, and also sort of all over the world.
Oh, yes, my.
Yeah.
She's learning something new every day.
Yeah.
But what do you enjoy most about, being in the music sector? Because, of course, you've dabbled in poetry as well, and you've recently put out a book. What do you enjoy most about playing music?
Oh, that is a beautiful question. Hard to articulate sometimes, but I think the embodied sense of music. So I playing last night with Penny, it was a really beautiful experience to move outside of yourself a little bit. Music, I think, has a really significant and beautiful way of doing that, of coaxing us beyond ourselves. I think of entrainment, that kind of like, how we sync up vibes-wise, literally, in terms of our brain frequencies with other people when we experience music. And I think it's a very powerful communal tool for love and descent, and all the things that can equal maybe some of the more, bullshit forces in the world, if you will.
For sure.
Yeah, so it's got teeth, I think, music, and it's also got heart. And to be inside of it is, like nothing else.
Oh, I would imagine so, especially for me from the music point of view. Looking at it from the industry, like, it's a great way to escape and really, get to explore people that you never really, heard of before, and new genres you may have never heard of before. That's one thing I've really enjoyed about doing this podcast. I've discovered all new bands and met so much people and developed great relationships with these people, and discovered all new genres and groups that may have not discovered before, even if I didn't do this show. So it's great to, have places like this and have people like yourself, doing great things in the industry, help that independent scene really, grow and thrive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a privilege to be flanked by such beautiful kind of ethics of work and play as well. And yeah, meeting people in such a kind of, I don't know, unfolding way, organic, and sometimes artificial. All ways of encounters are pretty good, and music lays the table for that. Really well.
So why dive into poetry? Because as we say, like poetry, like in its own way, like you're writing poems down, you're writing, these very unique forms of writing that can attract a different base of people in the arts sector. But when you talk about music too, like music is poetry when you're putting words to paper and then you put music behind it. It's kind of poetry in a sense as well. But why dive into the whole writing poems and stuff?
Oh, okay, that's a cool question. I think if music is embodiment, and it is so much more than that, but that's a place to start. I would say, perhaps for me, poetry elbows out kind of margins for space, silence, caesura, contemplative, contemplation, I guess, contemplative, like space,
contemplative and reflection.
Yeah. It has a gravitas and it goes deep, where music is sometimes lateral. Poetry has depth. I mean, all these things have depth and ascendancy, and they're of a kind in a sense, but they're each an animal unto themselves. And so, there is they both make use of rhythms in beautiful ways and a kind of like curation and orchestration of thought. But they permit different kinds of articulations and communications. And I think conceptually at my core, I'm intrigued by communication, by a va-et-vient between people and all sentient beings. So I think, and they came to me early on at the same time, right? They're pretty tautly woven
Mm-hmm. And you really just put out a book of new poems. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, maybe a year or so ago, I put out a book of poems with Biblioasis, a publisher out of Windsor, called Sorry About the Fire. And that had been written maybe over the last, I guess I do say maybe because the start and end are nebulous, over about 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And a gorgeous experience of meeting more communities of writers and individual writers themselves.
That's awesome. Now, of course, I've said how important these festivals are for the development of the music sector, but also the arts sector at large, especially with poets like yourself. What do you hope to take away from this experience of Lawnya Vawnya? Because you were at the very first one, and this is number 15. Mm-hmm. What do you hope to take away from this Lawnya Vawnya?
It takes so much away, and it's always the hope that it's an exchange and that we bring things as well. That's a great question. I think I'm endlessly intrigued by growth. And so to observe how people refine in a pragmatic sense, I was talking to Penny about how helpful and thoughtful it is that merch is taken care of in a particular way during Lawnya Vawnya. So we're not obligated to, hawk our own wares. There are people who help with that, transporting that. So it's cool to see those things be covered and considered. Just eternally kind of growth, but not in an MBA kind of way, whereby it's like, but more so where it's like an abundance of new currencies of thought and heart, and where people's heads are at. To be privy to that is like pretty special. Mm-hmm. All conversations on all levels, politically, culturally, psychically, spiritually. It's all a kind of cross feverish kind of knot and ribbon of that through a festival. So yeah.
Oh, for sure. Now, for anybody so there may be like a poet out there may be a author out there may be a band out there that may want to find a place where they can, have a safe space to, express themselves, especially like, reading a poem or, doing a reading of an article or maybe like of a book or maybe show a screening or maybe like play a show. For anybody who wants to come to Lawnya Vawnya, what do you want to say to them to convince them to come down to St. John's?
Well, I'm always spurred geologically by St. John's. So there is that, right? It is like to be near the waters of this area, to be near the rocks, sheers, cliffs of this area is very stirring. So that's an enticement for me. And the kind of normalization of music is a very cool experience. I think if they're making things, songs and poems, they know that happens irregardless of the possibility of space, whether there is space, safe or not. If there's an impulse to communicate that presages everything, that is, for John, I think can apply and connect.
For sure. Do you have any other future plans besides this? Any more gigs with like Penny and the Pits and all those other bands you mentioned? Are you going to be writing a set of new poems to put out in another book? What's in the future for Coco?
Oh, thank you, Zach. Yeah, I've just I pretty much finished recording my first solo album.
Oh, wow.
So with Will Kidman, a brilliant musician, and that'll be hopefully coming out. And touring that, we're going to play Sappy Fest. Penny and the Pits are also going to be playing Sappy Fest. So, and new books in the works, and shows with the bands I've mentioned. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. Now, how would you describe the sound of your upcoming solo record? Is it different from the punk side of things? What you're doing with the Penny and the Pits? Is it going to be more like singer-songwriter, acoustic kind of sounding? Like, what is the sound you're going for with this record?
Oh, okay, cool question. And it's a great privilege to have my fingers, so to speak, in all the pies of like these different musical outfits that I'm able to play with. My own work, I think, is kind of got a literary thrust. It makes room for space. It's biophonic, so there's lots of natural sounds. It's this particular album is keys and maybe guitar as well, driven. And yeah, it follows a lyric. So all arises from the words in a way, which is not to say that the music doesn't speak as well in terms of like subverting those words or bolstering those words or whatever. So yeah, I'd say it's spacious, it's biophonic, and it's literary, with hopefully a sweet pocket and a bit of a groove. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So for people who want to find out more about Coco and what are you going to be doing aside from that, where can they find you when it comes to, say, socials and a website? Like, how will we find you?
Well, I do have a nascent blue sky and a bit more of a political presence, I guess, on Threads than my Instagram, which is where I post most, I guess. So that's at Colleen Coco Collins. I would say find me there, and I'll find you back.
That's wonderful. Well, Colleen Coco Collins, glad to have you back in St. John's again. And hopefully in the future, when you say do put out this album, you come back to St. John's, do like a little small tour through some small venues and stuff. We love to have you back in that aspect. Maybe read some more poems, play some music. We're more than happy to have you here, but we're happy to have you here at Lawnya Vawnya as well. And glad to have you here on the Musical Connections podcast. Coco, thanks for doing this.
Beautifully expressed. I'll be back for sure. Thanks, Zach.